So yeah, welcome to our first ever virtual summer festival. It is day 2 of 4 of our activities, and this is our lunchtime guests. We have Michelle.Roberts from We Are Undefeatables and Moeed Majeed. Hope I said that correctly. Welcome. Just before I hand over to Emma to introduce them and for the session to get going, I'll just do a very quick bit of housekeeping. So for anyone that's unaware, we are Disability Sports Coach hosting this event and this session, and we're a charity that empowers adults and young people to enjoy happier and healthier lives. We've been running since 2013, in which we have helped over 19,000 people be more active. We're delighted that you can join us, and we would just like to thank our supporters, Ecolastical Insurance and Tesco Bags of Help. And also to all our partners that have been delivering and kind of being with us this week. So just got a few more people to admit. Just a kind of housekeeping to finish off. Please just get yourself on mute during the session. There will be a chance to ask questions at the end, which Emma will manage, but you can also just put any comments or questions as we go along in the chat as well. And I don't need to tell you to have water because it's not physical activity, but you know, it was a good idea anyway. But yeah, hope you enjoy the session, and yeah, we will be recording as well. So if you don't want to be on the film, please, yeah, turn your cameras off. Thank you, enjoy, and I'm going to hand over to Emma to introduce our guests properly.
Hi guys, so I'm the other Emma. I've recently started working for DSC, so some of you might not have met me before, but it's lovely to see you all. Today we're going to be talking about being active with a chronic illness or a long-term health condition. So this is something that I'm sure many of you will be aware of, but chronic and long-term health conditions are a lot more common than I think we realise in our culture at the moment, and I think they're possibly one of the most underrepresented parts of the disability spectrum. Of course, not everyone with a chronic illness will consider it to be a disability, but these kind of things can have, you know, a big impact on our lives and how we stay active. So something that we as a charity really want to be aware of and to empower our members to stay active with different barriers they might be facing or different adaptations they might be facing, and also make sure that the sports sector is, you know, aware and inclusive and representative of people with a range of different experiences. So that's what today's session is about. We have with us Moeed Majeed, who is a radio presenter, producer for Vice, and lots of cool stuff. If you listen to the radio, you might have heard him. And he's also an advocate for Crohn's awareness. And he's done a lot of sharing his personal experience and is a really inspirational person to follow if you're interested. And we also have Michelle.Roberts from We Are Undefeatable. We Are Undefeatable is a charity who are helping people with long-term health conditions to be more active for their health and also raise awareness. So I don't know if either of you would like to say anything to introduce yourselves in case I misrepresented anything, but yeah, here's your opportunity.
Okay, cool. I'll go first. Hi, everyone. My name's Moeed. As Emma said, I am a producer, presenter at Vice currently. And yeah, I've got to live with something called Crohn's disease. I've been diagnosed with that for about 10 years now, I think, which is crazy to even think about. 10 years, a decade, it's nuts. I had stoma surgery about 5 years ago. I think in December it will be 5 years. And yes, a massive physical adaptation, you know, living with something chronic is something like quite debilitating. I'm sure a lot of people have gone through stuff themselves to kind of like get involved with this whole scene. And so we've all been through something that has kind of tested us physically and mentally. And I think for me personally, it was a little bit difficult to come to terms with the physical change. You know, we live in a world where everything is so like image orientated. So you're seeing all these like pictures of people and then you're comparing yourselves to your friends and people you know, but I'm here to ensure you that that is not the case. You should not compare yourself to anyone other than yourself. Yesterday, you can only better yourself, and that's kind of how I live life now. It's a journey. You know, some people blossom a bit later than the others, some earlier, and we've got to love ourselves and appreciate the situation we're in. Even living with Crohn's, you know, I wouldn't change the journey I've been on because I've learned so much about myself, about life, and about appreciating the smaller things. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Moeed. Michelle, would you like to say anything to introduce yourself at all?
Yes, thanks very much, Emma, and it's a real pleasure to join you all today. So thanks very much for having me. As you said, I'm Michelle.Roberts. I'm the Physical Activity and Health Programme Manager, and I work for a group of charities called the Richmond Group. So there are basically a collaboration of 13 health and social care charities, and I'm sure you've heard of many of them. So some of those that are included are the British Red Cross, for example, Alzheimer's Society, Age UK, Macmillan Cancer Support. So there's a whole kind of host of them. But essentially what they do is they kind of work together because they've recognised that sometimes you just need to have the power of numbers to get heard. And I think that the sort of consensus for them is that there's a hell of a lot of people living out there with kind of chronic conditions, long-term life-limiting health conditions, and they need as much support as possible. So one of the things that they've been doing is focusing on how to support people to live as well as possible by keeping physically active. And so that's kind of where my role comes in. So I manage a programme of work called Movement for All, which is all focused on helping people to keep active. And also part of that work is a campaign called We Are Undefeatable, which is very much looking to, I suppose, represent people that live with chronic conditions and make people feel kind of visible. Because I think one of the things, as Moeed was saying, is, you know, perhaps people don't often feel like they're represented when they live with health conditions. Also, and sometimes health conditions are invisible, when people may not, you know, they wouldn't, when they look at you, think there's anything wrong with you. And I think that's one of the things that commonly people will say. So we've been sort of trying to work together as a group of charities just to try and sort of change some of the messages around physical activity, and basically make it a bit more relatable and achievable for people living with health conditions. So that's a kind of a short intro into what I do.
Amazing. And speaking of representation, I think that's probably a good place to start. It's something that we've all been kind of talking about a lot over the past few years. I think there's been an increase in our awareness of how much representation matters across a range of different intersectionalities. But for chronic illnesses, like you said, it's often something that isn't visible. So representation can be tricky, I suppose. I'm just wondering, from both of your perspectives, what would you like to see become, you know, more standard in the media and among sports organisations when we're talking about being active and chronic illnesses? What would you like to see in terms of representation?
Shall I go first? I'll go first. Well, first of all, like, being involved in the media, I'm gonna take it way back. So, like, it's always nice to see someone that kind of looks like you or speaks like you or has gone through the same lived experience. So when I was young, it was nice to see like another brown person on TV, because I'm like, I could be that person. And so now I kind of apply that logic to like people with like health conditions now, or like, again, like Michelle said, invisible conditions, because it's all good like having someone in a wheelchair on TV, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of people who are classified as disabled, but you can't see anything physically wrong with them, but they've gone through the same trials and tribulations as any other person who has gone through something in their life. So I think, I suppose it's breaking down a taboo. I suppose maybe like people like me who have like weaseled their way into like that industry to bring other people in, that which is always like a goal I have. And I suppose just like showing people that we're just as capable, if not more capable, of doing the same thing as everybody else. You shouldn't look at someone because they have something wrong with them as like any less capable as anyone else. You know what I'm saying? If anything, we've been through more in life and we have a much like better understanding of how things work. We can probably work under pressure better, like under stress, all this kind of stuff. So just because someone may have gone through something in their life, you shouldn't like feel pity towards them or feel sorry for them. If anything, you should give them harder stuff to do because they can probably do it a lot better. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're slowly getting to a stage now where in the media, you know, we are seeing more people who are you know, live with like a disability, or, you know, who are out there just doing their thing. And I feel like we just got to continue pushing that and like look towards them as someone we can emulate. Yeah, for sure. But I definitely feel like there's if not a better word, there's a market out there for people who, you know, live with conditions, and people want to see that human element, man. I always feel like people connect with other humans when there's like a realness to it, not behind this fake facade. So if someone sees, you know, we live in a world where everything is so distant, everything is so fake, you know what I'm saying? But when people see real things, they have that humanly connection, then, you know, things just work so much better. And I feel like that's what we have to kind of work on, man. People want to see other real things. And if anyone here can get onto that and connect with people on that like emotional level, then it's a fantastic thing, I think. That's my little bit.
I would totally echo what you just said there. And I think that one of the things that's been quite powerful about the We Are Undefeatable campaign that we launched the sort of late last August was that at the very heart of it, we had people who had lived experience, and a really diverse range of lived experience, people of different backgrounds, ages, health conditions, multiple conditions, severity of conditions, all sorts of people. And they were all telling their own authentic story about what it was like to live with their condition, how they overcame some of the challenges and unpredictability that's just inherent in living in that way, and how they built physical activity into their life. And I think what we've seen is that people have found the campaign incredibly relatable because of that experience, because there's somebody that you can see within the campaign, you think, that resonates with me, that story, or I've had a similar thing. And I think that it's about trying to make kind of people with health conditions as visible as possible, so that people feel represented. And I think one of the things that we particularly noticed over the last few months, obviously everybody's struggled, you know, it's been really challenging this year because of COVID-19. But one thing I think a lot of people that we spoke to said was that, you know, they were being told that they were vulnerable because they had a health condition. But that at the same time, there wasn't necessarily a lot of specific support and guidance that was aimed at people, and they didn't feel very represented in the media. And I think that's a really, really critical point. And I think, as Moeed said, I think there's been a lot of progress that has been made, but we just need to keep on making sure that there's a diversity of people that are visible in the media. And that, you know, if we're talking about physical activity opportunities, we try and move away from some of these traditional images of people that are, you know, sort of stereotypical kind of like gym bunnies. You do not need to wear lycra. I definitely don't like wearing lycra. You don't need to wear that. You don't need to wear trainers. You don't need to look a certain way to be physically active. You know, you can be physically active sat watching television in your pajamas if you want. And I think that it doesn't matter what you look like. I think it's just really important to get that encouraging, supportive message out there, and to be showing that there's a whole range of people that are being active in different ways. So I think that's one of the things that's been quite powerful about the We Are Undefeatable campaign. And we're really keen to continue to kind of push that message and ensure that there are a diversity of people that are banging that drum, basically.
I think that's a really interesting point about COVID-19 as well, because I think it's the first time that for some people, you know, for some people, those things that are usually accessible, if perhaps you don't have a health condition, have been taken away from everyone. We've all had to adapt. We've all had to work from home, a lot of us, if we're lucky, and work out at home and things like that. So do you think that there might be anything in lockdown that will help people be more aware of, you know, the changes that we can make to make, you know, activity and sport more accessible to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a double-edged sword, COVID-19, because we actually heard from a lot of people who, I mean, prior to COVID-19, a lot of our audience were saying to us, we want you to support us to be more active at home because we feel very self-conscious about being active in public places. And so, you know, they wanted to be more active, but it was a big barrier for them. And just the unpredictability day to day of, you know, can you get to that session because you're not having a good day? And so there's lots of things sort of wrapped up in it. So in a way, I think the accessibility of a lot of sessions moving online via Zoom and exercise videos and things like that, I think a lot of people felt that it opened up opportunities to them, and they were more able to be active. So I think that's been quite positive. It's just that there's also that within that there's been quite a sort of an influx of different information and opportunities, and in a way our audience don't feel like all of those things are accessible to them, so they need a bit of help filtering. And that's one of the things that we've been trying to do, is just sort of say, sort of vet things, I suppose, in a way, and say, okay, well, this is basically adaptable, so a lot of people will be able to adapt this to suit them. This activity over here is a kind of a lower level, and there's progressions within it. And I think it's just, most people want to know that they found something that's suitable for them, that they can achieve. People want to achieve something, don't they, to be motivated to continue. And if you go in and try something that's a bit too difficult, it's not quite pitched at your level, that's kind of uninspiring. So I think that's a really critical part in all of this. But I think there are, you know, pros and cons from what's happened during sort of COVID-19 that we need to kind of learn from as much as possible, and sort of take some of the those kind of like insights forward in terms of how we're also opening up the sector and supporting people moving forwards, because life isn't going to look the same for quite some time. So I think everybody needs a little bit of help making that transition.
Absolutely. That takes us quite nicely into my next question, which is from both of your perspectives, how do you think that sports organisations should be adapting their provisions going forwards? I know we've seen a lot of things moving online. For example, with Disability Sports Coach, we've created a whole online program called DSC at Home, and we're going to probably keep those sessions when we are able to go back to in-person provision. We'll be keeping some of those on for people that maybe don't feel comfortable going back or just enjoy the flexibility. So I suppose, Moeed, potentially from your personal experience, and Michelle from more of a sports organisation perspective, what do you think we should be looking to do as a sector?
For me personally, I think the only way you can kind of get an idea of what to do is by speaking to people. So when I, for example, I'm making like a radio show or something, the only way I'd know is maybe holding a focus group and then asking people, okay, look, get like a vast array of people who are living with different things and just literally just sit down and ask them questions. I think it's fantastic you've adapted to the whole like at home thing. And that's something you should definitely maintain, because some people are not as confident, as you said, to maybe come to a session in person, but maybe they could follow it themselves online and then build up a bit of confidence. And once they start seeing a change, they can come to meet you in person and say, look, I've done this whole thing on my own, you know. I think the main thing for people who are doing these sessions online, I just wanted to touch upon that slightly off topic, is that you should, again, never compare yourself to other people, and maybe not remain in your comfort zone, but don't try and push yourself too quickly to like be this Arnold Schwarzenegger figure or whatever it is like you look up to, because that takes years to get to. So just take it step by step. Do 10 push-ups a day, do 11 the next day, then 12. Don't think you're going to do 10, then 700 the next day. You know what I'm saying? It's all steps. But don't get me wrong, I've been there myself, where I think, you know, I can be like Usain Bolt. It's not going to happen. It takes time. But as long as you understand that, then I think things will begin to get a bit easier. But yeah, again, moving things online, I think this whole COVID thing has made us realize how much people can do at home. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm a bit of an extrovert, so I got very frustrated very quickly being at home. But, you know, you go to adapt, you know, like a little chameleon, you know, you just got to kind of adapt to the surroundings you're in. And I think that's similar to sports. Again, sports, we actually did a podcast on this, like homegrown sports is one of the industries or like the sectors that have been affected the most. When it comes to like grassroots football, for example, you know, that's got no funding at the moment. So I think maintaining or trying to like bring those things back by starting stuff at home will definitely, you know, get people in the mood for sure. Yeah, I hope I answered the question there. I tend to veer off tangents, but yeah.
Again, I'm just going to echo everything you keep saying, Moeed. Sorry, I'm like a copycat.
I'm gonna let you go first next time then, so I can do it to you.
But I totally agree that, you know, I think sometimes the sport and physical activity sector may get a bit tied up in knots about what's the right thing to do. And absolutely, I would say there's a lot of insight out there about how people feel about being active and the barriers. I'm conducting a lot, and I know Activity Alliance and other organisations have also done that. And I think that it is kind of a simple answer, and that is just ask the question. If you're kind of like thinking you don't quite know what to do to make someone feel welcome, or make a group of people feel like it's accessible, the activity you're providing is accessible for them, just ask the question and you'll get an answer that's helpful, and it's hopefully not going to be too complicated, because really we're quite sort of simple creatures, and I think people just want to feel like they've been listened to, and that, you know, they're going to get some support. So I think that one of the things that has sort of been quite critical that's come out in a lot of the research that we've been doing over the last few months with our sort of audience is peer support is a big deal. So trying to bring people together with like-minded people so that there's that opportunity to have that social connection. I think that is also another sort of fundamental part of this. And it could be that that's via Zoom. It could be that there's like a WhatsApp group that's linked to an activity, and you're all doing your activity at home separately, but that you're still connecting in some way. I think it's about trying to make it as accessible and welcoming for people as possible, and bring those people together and connect people so that they can keep motivating themselves. Because I think motivation, particularly for some of the people we've got, maybe who have like severe health conditions or sort of really limited mobility, or multiple conditions as well, I think they've really struggled to find motivation to keep their physical activity up. So I think, you know, we've got to look out for everybody and try and make sure that we're including people as much as possible. I know it's not a straightforward answer. I know that the sectors, it's a real struggle. So I really feel for the sport and physical activity and leisure sector at the moment. But I think we kind of all need to pull together to help, really, to make it as sustainable as possible.
Definitely. And I guess that also brings us to the question, let's bring it back to, you know, people with chronic illnesses. So Moeed, from your perspective, did you want to share a little bit about your journey with being active and, you know, keeping balance in your life? How do you approach that? And what advice would you give to people who have got a health condition that they maybe need to balance with being healthy and active?
Sure. I suppose the first thing I'll say is it's not easy, but I've got there in the end. There's a will, there's a way, you know what I'm saying? You can do it for sure, no matter what you're going through. I think a lot of it is like a matter of mind, like believing in doing something. And some people like think it's all a fantasy, but if you genuinely believe you can do something, you're like a million times more likely to be able to actually do it than doubting yourself. I think self-doubt is one of the main things that stops people from achieving stuff in life. So is that my okay? So where was I? Ruby, I think you got to mute your mic, you know. Sorry, I can hear myself echoing. So I was very, very unhealthy. I got something, so Crohn's disease, if you don't know what it is like inflammatory bowel disease. It affects your entire digestive system from your mouth to your booty. And basically you can't digest food, you lose a lot of weight, you become anemic, you have no energy, you go to the toilet a lot. And so I lost a lot of weight. I was very, very skinny. At my lowest, I was like 52 kilograms, which is nuts because I'm like 75 kilos now. And so as you can imagine, physical activity was a distant like memory because I used to love like I was quite sporty, and it was something I never ever thought I'd do again. You know, come my surgery, I started to put weight back on. I was like, okay, cool, maybe this is something I could get back into. But the main thing I had to realize is I had to kind of like listen to my body and not be a gung-ho and like injure myself or like prolapse my stoma or like have to go have more surgery. You got to kind of listen to your body. Again, it goes back to me saying taking baby steps. You know, if you used to run 10K, maybe just like walk around the block first of all for a week, see how you feel after that. Then maybe jog around the block, then jog a bit further. You know, you can't, me giving this advice is mad because I do the complete opposite, which is bad because I injure myself. So I was like, you know what, man, I haven't run in about a year. Let me run 5K. Not a good idea. Let me tell you right now, my knees are still feeling it. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why I got a bike. So like, I'm not so much pressure on the knees. So again, like even with my cycling, it's like, okay, cycle a little bit, see how you feel. And then gradually like increase that. It's a compound effect. Like it's genuinely like, there's no point of thinking you're going to like do the Tour de France next week because it ain't going to happen. You got to kind of put in some time, practice. So yeah, for me personally, it was coming to terms again with what I was going through, how my body was adapting to the situation I was in. I'm sure everyone has their own thing they're going through, and you kind of know your body very well because you become like, it's a weird connection you start to build with your body when you go through like a condition or like you go through something that kind of like changes your life. So listen to your body, man. See how you feel, take it slow. and ease back into it. And after a matter of months, you know, I was going back to the gym, I was playing football again. I've joined like an MMA gym, which is nuts, and I've got a stoma bag, which is crazy. So I train with like loads of fighters that could probably beat the crap out of me, but it's cool. They're nice to me. Again, that's a vision I had, but I knew I wasn't going to get there overnight. You know, it took time to regain my fitness. Don't get me wrong, like over lockdown, I've put on a bit of puppy fat, but it's all good. It's all good because I know eventually I will lose that. So yeah, the main thing for me is just listen to your body. Don't try and compare yourself to anyone else. I think that's the third time I've said it, but I'm trying to start emphasizing the importance. Like, you have to compare yourself to how you were yesterday. And if you did 10 push-ups yesterday, do 11 today, do 12 tomorrow. And then again, it's a compound effect. Before you know it, by the end of the year, 1 year, it's 365 press-ups in 1 day. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nuts to think about it. And all you're doing is like increasing it by 1 every day. So yeah, compound effect is something I truly like. I'm a big believer in that, man. Just take your time, ease into it, and then you'll see the benefits. It's a long-term game, man. We're playing the game of life. We ain't playing like the game of next week. So it takes time to kind of like get yourself into like to where you want to be. So, but everyone here can do it 100%. Like, everyone here has the mental capacity to do it. You just got to believe it, and you got to set for yourself like nice, realistic goals. And then once you achieve that, enjoy it for a bit, then go to the next one, then to the next one. Yeah, don't do 365 press-ups tomorrow because you're gonna hurt yourself.
From my point of view, I would, just say that from the We're Undefeatable campaign says a lot of the similar kind of messages, really, about, you know, building up gradually, finding the right thing that suits you. As I said before, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to go and play sport in a traditional sense, or go and do this thing over here or that thing over there that other people are doing. As Moeed was saying, I think you've got to find the thing that works for you and that you're going to be motivated to do day in, day out. And sometimes you won't do it because actually you don't feel like it. And don't push yourself on the days that you don't feel like it, because then you'll turn yourself off of everything, and you'll find it really hard to kind of get remotivated again. So I think those are really, really important messages. And just try to build things into your day. I mean, we've been doing quite a lot of promotion, just trying to get people to think about, you know, you're boiling the kettle in between, you know, meetings, Zoom meetings or whatever. Just do some little exercises while you're doing that, while you're waiting for a kettle to boil. You know, all of those little things add up.
Is a definite one.
Yeah,
that's what I do. Like, when I put something in the microwave, I start doing push-ups on the countertop because it makes me feel like I'm hench, but I'm not. Also, just going off what Michelle said, like, this is a chance for everyone to like truly like explore passions they've had that they may never had the confidence to do before. If you like fencing, why not go to a fencing class? If you like ballet and you've never done it before, try it out, man. Like, going through what I've gone through has made me realize, like, we only have one life and you got to do what you like. That's why I like all the haters, man, that keep telling me to get a 9-to-5 or to like work in an office or to, nah, man, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. I enjoy what I do. And it took me 6 years of working in retail and doing everything on the side to get to where I want to be today. And now I get paid to do what I like. And it is crazy. It is a nuts concept, but people need to do that. So if there's something you like and you've never had maybe the confidence or a sport that you thought you've seen that's cool on TV, like badminton or whatever it is, man, just go book a session in your local like sports center, man. You can book a court for like £5 for an hour and just get a couple mates, or just go there on your own and just play with some random people, man. Just do what you like, man. Do what you like. Honestly, you this is your life. You are in control. You might upset some people, but ultimately, as long as you are happy, they will come around eventually when they see your happiness, to see the good energy you have, because they're gonna want some of that, bruv. I'm telling you, they're gonna want some. People are trying to take the energy. Obviously, every now and again, it's nice to give some away, but you got to keep it for yourself. Look after yourself. And when you are happy here, you are happy here. Everything that kind of follows in suit. Sorry, I sounded like a monk.
Sorry, Michelle, was there anything else you wanted to add on the end of that? Because I slightly interrupted you with my toothbrush anecdote.
No, I liked the interruption with the toothbrush anecdote. I think that was, yeah, basically, it's all been said. It's just find the thing that suits you. Start slowly and just be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up about stuff if you can't do things sometimes.
Absolutely. So other Emma, are we okay to take a couple questions, or do we need to move on?
Yes, so we've got a couple of questions on the chat. If anyone else would like to add some questions, please do so now. A really good one, I won't say it's from, just in case it's naming and shaming, but I think it's an excellent question personally. What is more important, visibility or education?
Shall I go?
Go on, Moeed.
I actually read that question and it gave me a bit of time to think about it, thankfully. And for me personally, I think visibility is education. I think the more you see something, the more you're able to understand. Like when people see my stoma, they may have never seen it before. My stoma bag here, I poo into a bag. They're like, "Rah, what is that?" And so when they see it, they start to ask questions. And when you ask questions, you know, they learn a bit. They're like, "You know what? I'm going to go and research into that. Oh, my uncle has something like that." That kind of stuff. So I think the more you see something, the more you become aware of it. Just like all the things we see in the news, you start to do your own research and that kind of stuff. I think the more things become mainstream, or the more openly you talk about things, the more likely it is to become normal. And I do that on purpose because we are all normal no matter what we go through. But the more people understand what you're going through, and yeah, I think the more people, like, again, we live in a visual society, the more you see something, the more, you know, untaboo, if that's even a word, it becomes. So yeah, I feel like visibility equals education personally.
Brilliant. I totally agree. Do you have anything to add to that, Michelle, or probably agree?
I probably agree, because that's what I've done for the whole session. No, I definitely, I would reiterate that. And I think that that's basically one of the reasons why with the campaign, it's just about trying to make people feel visible, feel seen, and to raise awareness of the campaign. Because I think you're right, Moeed, that the education is just hand in hand. It will necessarily follow as people see that. And see different people being acted in different ways, it just becomes like a social norm, basically. And that's what we're kind of aiming for, isn't it? We're all just trying to kind of shift the dial on making people feel like physical activities for them. And it's not some sort of thing like that's part of an exclusive club, I suppose.
Does anyone else have another question? I think Debbie might be unmuting herself. You're not. Okay, no worries.
Which we could maybe briefly touch on, which is, has the language used during COVID and the government about better health been understood by everyone? So I suppose that question is asking, is that helpful language? What do you think about how we have been told to approach health during COVID, and what adaptations do you think we could add to that message to be more inclusive?
Shall I go first with that one? I think that one of the things that we've seen, we've basically had a research community that we've been working with over the last few months to basically understand how people feel during the lockdown, how people have responded to the government announcements and guidance. And I think confused and anxious and worried are the three words that I would use. So that would lead me to answer the question to say, I don't think that it's been well understood. I don't think the language has been really taken on board. And I think that to kind of reiterate the point I made earlier, people didn't necessarily, you know, for our audience living with health conditions, necessarily think that they were being spoken to. They'd been told that they were vulnerable, particularly vulnerable, and many people have been shielding. And yes, there has been specific shielding guidance, but there are a lot of people who felt they should be shielding who weren't, who didn't seem to feel like they had specific support and advice. So I think that there's quite a lot that we need to do to make sure that people feel like the information and guidance is relevant to them, and that it's kind of more inclusive. I think that it's kind of unfortunate really that some of the language just hasn't been as inclusive as possible. And I think that one of the challenges we've got now with like the Better Health campaign, for example, I think, you know, there's a lot of positivity about it, and there's some sort of the way that they've put together their kind of TV advert. But what I would say is that, you know, we have to be really careful about not sort of trying to apportion blame to people. I think that, you know, sometimes there can be a bit of a habit of sort of putting too much responsibility on people. And I think it's everybody's challenge to help support people to live as well as possible when they've got health conditions. So, you know, I think that we just need to be a bit mindful of that as well when we're kind of putting together these kind of public health campaigns.
Brilliant. We don't have any more questions in the box.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it. I was going to say, I do have one question, but we might have run out of time. Is it all right to quickly ask?
Fine with me.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, yeah, really, so would, kind of both of you, but what advice would you give for young people that want to kind of put out their different conditions kind of on social media, on the media, that then get kind of negative comments and kind of feedback from friends or whoever it might be out there, kind of how they should do it, or kind of how can they improve what they're doing and feel they actually are being supported? Because I completely agree with making things visible and sharing stories. I think for a lot of, especially the younger generation, they can do that and then have the negative consequences because of that.
Do you want to go first, Michelle?
No, you go first.
Really? Okay, fine. For me personally, I think it's a fantastic thing if people are taking like the responsibility upon themselves to kind of like raise awareness and break taboos by sharing their personal experience. I think it's very difficult to, you know, it's outside of your comfort zone, right? To share something. You may have just been diagnosed or started to live with something, but I think first of all, that's an amazing thing. Point number one. The second thing is like only do that once you are fully comfortable with your condition. And so if someone says something, you're literally just gonna laugh. Haters gonna hate, man. And no matter what you do, there are gonna be people that troll, because we live in a troll generation. Do you know what I'm saying? But then you have to realize that these people are very sad people, and they obviously have nothing better to do with their lives than to make fun of people. And most likely they do it from a troll account, so they don't show their face because they're too scared to do it. Because you know, ultimately the wit that you have will probably like just destroy them. So I think the first thing, so just be confident within yourself, comfortable within yourself, and share your day-to-day story. You don't have to do anything special. You know, it's just about, okay, this is what I do in the morning. This is how I prepare to go swimming. This is me going to my grandma's house. Like, this is what happens when I eat this type of food. So I always tell people like that ask me about, because I made like a bunch of videos about when I first had my surgery, and like people asking me about like how it all happened. And all I was doing is literally just filming what I did in a day. So I'm not doing anything special. And there's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like some motivational speaker I listen to. Gary V, his name is. And he always says, document, not create. Document means basically you just documenting what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You're not trying to forcefully create some sort of like narrative. All I'm doing is taking a camera with me and going to my mate's house and filming what I'm doing. So if there are young people that are out there that are feeling a bit nervous towards it, then don't feel nervous. Like social media, for all its like negative appeal, there are so many other people out there that you can connect with that have amazing stories that will uplift you and inspire you, just like you will inspire the other people that are going to look at what you post as well. So you have to look at it in a good way. And again, you've always got the block button as well, man. Block. Just go on a spree, bro. You're probably quite therapeutic blocking people. So if you're going to start doing it, I'd say the only way to start is to start. You may feel a bit unconfident at the start, but the only way you're going to learn is by doing it. Like when I look back at my first video, it's atrocious, it's terrible. But so many people like it because it's just like an emotional outburst, basically. It's me just talking emotionally to a camera for like 5 minutes. But it connects with a lot of people, and it goes back to my point of like connecting with people emotionally on a human level. So yeah, just start. And I'm always here. You can connect with me. I can put my little Insta, give me a shout. I'm always happy to chat to people. As you can probably tell, I like to talk. So yeah, anytime, give me a shout. I'm about.
I think it's really important to sort of stress that, really, that you know, you shouldn't feel like you can't be authentic and be yourself and share what's important to you. And it is brave to do it. And it might be that you do get some negative kickback, but you will also, I am pretty confident get a lot of support and a lot of love on social media, and just in general amongst your friends network, if you are sharing information that's important, important part of you. I think that what we found when we launched the campaign, there were a few negative comments about some of the people involved in the campaign, and we didn't even need to jump in and say anything, because other people instantly jumped on those negative comments and were like, what are you talking about? They just basically came to the defense of those people online in the sort of social spheres, social communities. And I think this is the thing, like, you will get some negativity sometimes, because that's just unfortunately the way social media works, but there's just always so many great people out there that do want to help to share positive messages and to support people. And I think this is why the power of communities are really important, and having those kind of peer support networks as well, so that you know that there are other people out there that may be living with the same sort of condition as you, or just various different challenges that you've got. And I think it's important to kind of surround yourself sometimes with those people that you can feel like you can relate to, just so you've got that kind of support network. But definitely I would encourage people to share these things, because the more that we can be brave and do that, I think the more visible and the more education we will have longer term. So yeah.
Can I just add one more thing as well, please? Sorry. Oops. My phone just went off at the wrong time. Everyone in life goes through something that will test them physically, mentally, socially, in every single way. So what you have to remember is those people who are commenting those maybe nasty or trying to make fun of you, they're going through something in their life which they obviously haven't come to terms with, whereas you have. So you can't just let them, hopefully one day they will come to terms with it. And like, I've had people who have said stuff and then apologize later because they realize what they've done is wrong, and it's all a learning curve for them. So again, it just goes back to you being comfortable within yourself and having, the confidence to go forward and live a life that you're going to enjoy and make yourself happy, which ultimately is the main thing.
So true. So I guess we can wrap up by asking both Michelle and Moeed, is there anything that you'd like to finally add, or anything that you think is relevant to the audience that you'd like to plug, that they might be interested in?
I'm very happy to plug. We've got a website, weareundefeatable.co.uk, which I really recommend you go and take a look at. There's a supporters hub area on there, so there's lots of assets, images and things and you can sign up to get our newsletters, and we've got a webinar coming up on the 8th of September if people are interested to hear a bit more about some of our insight and what we've been up to with the campaign. So we always welcome more people into the fold. So and just thanks very much for having me today.
Awesome. I'm not as cool as Michelle, so I don't have any things going on like that. But you can follow me on Instagram at Moeed Majeed, M-O-E-E-D. I'll put it in the chat. Drop me a message. We can start a conversation and see where it goes, man. Yeah, I'm happy to connect with people doing cool things. So hit me up, peeps. Hit me up. And thank you guys for all having me. It's been fun.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining. I thought there'd be a couple of things that we could plug from the Virtual Summer Festival. Of course, if you're joining and you haven't joined any of the other sessions, we've got lots of sports sessions that I'm sure Emma will explain in a minute. But tomorrow, if you're a fitness instructor or you work in sport and you're interested in this, we have an Adapting Fitness for Accessibility and Inclusion session with Carly from Project HB and Coach G, Greer. So that might be useful for anyone who's kind of looking for practical tips. And we also have a panel this evening at 5:30 on intersectional inclusion in sport. So that will cover a lot of different, like LGBTQIA+, and, ethnic diversity in sport, gender diversity in sport. So yeah, if you're interested in that, that's at 5:30. And again, Michelle and Moeed, thank you so much for joining. It's been really, really fantastic to hear your perspectives on this.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone for joining. It's been fun.
Yes, it's been fun. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you as well. Such a feel-good session, and yeah, incredible. The last bit of Summer Festival plugging is this afternoon. We do have 2 activity sessions. At 2:30 we have got Zumba, followed by football at 4 o'clock. So anyone on here, it's the same Zoom code for all our sessions this week. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you at 2:30.
I might have to join, bruv. Come in my kit, my Arsenal kit.
Yeah, please. You're not your Arsenal kit. Yeah, you're
That's the only
welcome
kit.
to any session.
That's the only kit, bruv. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I can ask you a question actually. Where can we find like a list? Is there like a timetable or a program that I can just have a look at everything?
Yeah, there is. I can email it to you.
That'd be wonderful.
Off Emma, or
That'd be
I'll
wonderful.
send it through to you. Definitely.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
I can email it to you or Emma, will one of us. It's also on all of our social media, so
Cool.
yeah, it should be up.
I was going to say, I know you have it, of course. Yeah, we'll get it through to you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
Brilliant.
much for everyone.
We're
Bye-bye.
going to end the call in 10 seconds. And yeah, see you all soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.